Hello, I'm Bill Fox, and this program is about East Brunswick. My guests tonight are freeholder David Craybill, the county engineer John Reiser, and in our studio panel tonight is Ken Schalhob, Monty Block, and Max Chernoff. The topic of our program tonight is traffic and transportation in Middlesex County. And the map that we have here, I think, indicates why that's a very important topic for us to focus on. The lines in red on that map represent county roads which pass through or around East Brunswick. And as you can see from that kind of spaghetti of red there are a lot of them, and they affect all of us in terms of how we get around our own town and around and from our town to work in the county. It's important to recognize that while East Brunswick is growing relatively slowly, the rest of the county is growing at a fairly rapid rate. According to the County Planning Board projections for the year 1990, during this 10-year period from 1980 rather to 1990, the towns that touch East Brunswick, North Brunswick, Saraville, Old Bridge, Monroe, and so on, will increase in population by approximately 56,000 people. During that same period of time, East Brunswick is projected to increase in population by about 4,800 people. And at this time, our own estimates are that we've increased by about somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 people since 1980. So that growth immediately around us and in the rest of the county is very important for all of us. And that's why I have guests from the county with us tonight. Now, Dave, you're a freeholder, and I know that on the Board of Freeholders, each freeholder has responsibility for certain areas of county government. Maybe you could tell us what your responsibilities are.
Well, Mayor, I'm chairman of the Finance and Administration Committee or Department of the Board of Chosen Freeholders, and that has the responsibility for the budget and the composition of the budget and personnel and all the administrative details. I'm also a member of the County Planning Board, and that gets involved in the environmental concerns of our county. And since its inception, have been I have been chairman of the County Transportation Coordinating Committee. All federal and state funding involving transportation, highways, and bridges goes through the committee as a strong advisory body to the Board of Chosen Freeholders, and then for actions by the freeholders. The freeholders can modify an action, but they have to have the input from what we call the TCC. I also am the immediate past chairman and was the charter chairman of the North Jersey Transportation Coordinating Council, which includes the 10 counties of northern New Jersey, including Middlesex. Before that was created, we had the Tri-State Regional Planning Council involving New York and Connecticut, and it became cumbersome of the 3 states involved, and finally a decision was made each state better go on their own.
Okay. I want to come back to the Transportation Coordinating Committees in just a minute, but first I want to ask John Reiser what the county engineer does and what your function is in county government.
I'd like to think that the county engineer takes care of roads, bridges, and intersections. However, I find that I'm involved in just about every phase of county government. We provide an engineering service, for example, for the hospital. We provide an engineering service for the Parks Department. When the Board of Freeholders thinks about building a new building, we're involved with that. So we really have a multifaceted operation with probably the emphasis on roads, bridges, and traffic lights. I just want to make one, before you come back to Freeholder Craybill, I just want to make one comment on your little statement about growth. In 1985, our planning board, and I also am a member of the county planning board, studied the growth patterns in Middlesex County and throughout New Jersey. And of course, Middlesex County is the fastest growing county in 1985 anyway. exceeding both the dollars and percentage increase of any other county. We are virtually exploding. There is no other county that is facing the kind of growth that we're facing. Some people say, why is that? But when you look at the road network, and I'm taking us back to transportation, you see the Turnpike, you see Route 1, you see Route 130, you see Route 18, you see parts of Route 9, the Parkway. Just about every major road in the state of New Jersey goes through Middlesex County. We are faced with growth that is continuing this year. So I don't know where it's going to end, but it really is having an impact on the county roads.
Now, John, just to pursue that for a minute, the county planning board really doesn't have much control over growth. That's a local decision, isn't it?
Absolutely. Our jurisdiction primarily is limited to drainage and to access of county roads with respect to the development, whether it be a site plan or a subdivision. It's quite limited.
It's unique that today at the 4:30 meeting of the County Planning Board, for the first time we've taken action by resolution adopted that will require conceptual plans of a large development that would be adjacent to county road or drainage to be presented for the County Planning Board early on for review and any comments. That's a new development just this afternoon.
Yeah, and I think that's a good move, too. Now, coming back to the Transportation Coordinating Committee for Middlesex County, David, who's on the committee and what are the, well, let's first of all ask who's on the committee.
There are approximately 60 members. All 25 mayors are members of the committee, and each mayor is entitled to have a designee. So if the mayor out of a busy schedule cannot make every meeting, the designee attends. There are representatives of various governmental units. There are representatives of the bus industry, rail, taxi cabs, the trucking industry, citizens at large. We meet the first Thursday of every month, right on through the summer, at the Middlesex County College in their student center, and we invite the general public to come and to participate in Democracy at Action, 7:30 every first Thursday of the month.
And I might say, although I usually have our Director of Planning and Community Development attend, that meetings I have attended have been most fascinating, and I encourage people to go to those meetings because I think you find out a lot about what's happening in the county.
And I might add that East Brunswick Township has a 100% record of attendance. They're always represented.
Well,
we appreciate that.
It's an important function in the county. Now, what kinds of things, you mentioned before that you do review applications for federal grants and so on, but what kinds of other things does the TCC, as it's called, deal with?
Actually, by law, it is set into a certain standard, but the Board of Chosen Freeholders have allowed us to go far beyond the intent of the law, and as such, the TCC, Transportation Coordinating Committee of our county, has really gotten involved in every aspect of transportation and highways and bridges in the county. So we've gone far beyond the charge by the legislature and the federal government on just reviewing federal and state funding coming in.
Can you give us an example?
Well, I use an illustration, Metro Park, which is a very large 1,500-car parking lot in Woodbridge on the border of Edison Township. The Board of Chosen Freeholders of our county now operate Metro Park for New Jersey Transit Corporation. That all came out of the TCC, and it's really not federal funding. It's something that we just sort of felt there was a need to straighten out the chaos, the mess there, you might say, and congestion, and it's being very successfully operated by the county government.
Mayor, last year, Freeholder Crabio hosted a 5-day traffic conference. That, again, is now growth of TCC. And from that, a document was developed with respect to trying to solve some of our traffic problems. I'll talk about that later, though. It's some of the things are quite interesting.
Well, in fact, I'm about to ask you a question about that because I was going to and am going to ask you to, as you look at the county and without yet specific reference necessarily to East Brunswick, as you look at the county, what are the major specific problems that you see, and what kinds of plans are there for dealing with them?
Well, of course, you know, many county roads need increased capacity. That means increased lane width, shoulders, what have you. Obviously, there's not enough money to solve all the problems. You're talking about huge amounts of money. However, I think that some of the problems can be addressed, and we've come up with a plan which we call TOPICS. It's a acronym that was previously coined by the federal government, and that is a system of analysis whereby you analyze a corridor with respect to increasing the safety and capacity of the corridor with the expenditure of a minimum amount of dollars. This year, the Board of Freeholders, in fact, this last week, they authorized a contract to be let to Edwards and Kelsey in the amount of $250,000. That's one heck of a study, by the way, to do the southern part of the county, to do a corridor study of the major county roads in the southern part of the county. This will be looking at things, this will pinpoint existing problems, and it'll try to alert us to future problems. It's not going to solve every problem. I don't mean to imply that.
When you say southern part of the county, what does that encompass?
It doesn't, we're thinking primarily right now, and by the way, the next phase would be to come up further north. We're hoping maybe to do it in 2 or 3 phases because the expenditure is large. We're talking about Old Bridge, Monroe, and to be honest with you, it's because of the fact that the development is occurring there. That's where the developers are, and we're trying to get a free ride a little bit. We're trying to get the developers to solve some of the problems, and we figure, well, if we know what the problems are, we can address them. So we're talking about the towns just a little bit south of East Brunswick. I think next year we'll be recommending the towns from East Brunswick further north. I don't know whether we can get all the way north for another $250,000, to be honest, but I think we may have to do a third shot and go further north.
Last year, we created what we called the Motion Conference that Mr. John Reiser has alluded to, Middlesex on Transportation, Implementation of Needs. And we had 3 sub-regional conferences and really work sessions, all-day work sessions, ending up with a final conference and updated for the first time, in-house with our county planning board staff and the county engineer's office, the transportation plan of the county, which had not been updated since 1977. And in that plan, we now have a document, and we're proud of it because we haven't heard anyone punch any holes in it, you might say, yet, where on every municipality, every intersection that needs improvement, where there's widening, where there's additional signing, where a traffic light is needed, shoulder approaches, these are all listed in that plan, and now we have a document that we can move forward. And what John Reiser has mentioned is now we've retained a consultant and taken a very small segment of that plan and trying to get the plan finalized, fine-tuned, so that we can get it implemented.
Well, John mentioned money, and it's a good thing to have a plan. Roughly how much money does the county spend each year in road improvements and improvements to intersections and so on?
Counting bridges, by the way, we've had a very strong emphasis on bridges, and I think we've built quite a few in East Brunswick, by the way, Mayor, over the years, at least the last 5 years. We've had a very strong emphasis on bridges, and when you talk about a bridge, you talk maybe $700,000 to $1 million. In the last 3 to 4 years, we've been spending anywhere from $15 to $20 million on bridges and roads and traffic lights. You've got to remember that 22 years ago is significant because that's when I first came to the county. We owned 1 traffic light. That 1 traffic light happened to be in the historic district of East Brunswick. That was the only county-owned traffic light.
That's true.
We now own close to 300. So we've built at least 300, approximately 300 traffic lights in some 20 years. We have a very aggressive program with respect to traffic lights. The other day, we took bids on a traffic intersection, and of course, when you build a traffic light, you're not only building the hardware for the light, but you're providing drainage and widening and a whole slew of appurtenances, and the bid shocked me. It was $250,000 for a traffic intersection where you had to do the radiuses, widen out, do drainage, and you can see at that rate, they're quite expensive, and we're continuing this program of additional traffic lights. I just wanted to touch on one more thing when you talk about cost, and the one problem that we have not been able to solve, and I think Freehold Crable from time to time has tried to bring this thing to a head and come up with different programs, and He's hit the state over the head a couple times, and we haven't solved the problem yet. It's a very serious problem. It's a serious problem in the Northeast. It's a serious problem in New Jersey. It's a serious problem in Middlesex County, and that's the problem of railroad bridges. The railroads, when a lot of them were sold or went into bankruptcy, they walked away from the railroad bridges. Nobody wants to take over the maintenance of railroad bridges. And you have a lot of railroad bridges out there are in very bad shape on municipal roads, county roads, and what have you. We've addressed the bridges which are clearly our responsibility. The reason nobody wants to mess with railroad bridges is the fact that you're talking about a $100 million problem right in Middlesex County to repair or replace railroad bridges. And it's getting worse by the day. So, go ahead.
I might say there's 550 railroad bridges in the state. There are 70 railroad bridges in Middlesex County, and every one of them needs substantial repair or replacement, and nobody admits that they own or built the railroad bridges. And I suggest whether it's the municipal, county, state, federal, or Conrail, which is heavily subsidized by the federal government, it's still we, the taxpayers, that are going to have to foot the bill.
That's right, and people out there might be wondering why are these people talking about railroad bridges, but if the railroad bridges fail, we have major problems, and for your information, there's a railroad bridge on Route 18 in the vicinity of Milltown Road. There's a railroad that runs under Route 18, and if that bridge were to ever fail, we would be in a real mess. So it's a very important issue.
And Mayor, we've had 4 railroad bridges closed in the past 3 years where the cooperation of the local municipality and the county with the state, DOT, got them back in service.
Mayor, let's just talk about one, the one on Old Bridge Turnpike.
Oh, yes.
That was a railroad tunnel, but it was a bridge in a sense.
That's right.
And again, we had 3 partners. We had you, we had the state of New Jersey, and the county. We all chipped in and had it repaired. But that closed Old Bridge Turnpike for a while, and there was a terrible outcry, not only from the merchants, but the people who were inconvenienced. It was really not a good situation.
Yes, and if we hadn't been willing to step in, it would have stayed closed for months and months and months and months.
Mayor, I'd just like to go back.
Okay, go ahead.
One comment back before the railroad bridges, over $20 million being spent in East Brunswick Township, and that has been done because of the tremendous cooperation with you, Mayor, and your administration, with the county. Some of the other mayors are going to be jealous, but actually I think you've gotten a little bit, substantially more of the pie because there's been a cooperative effort.
We try to get
commend you.
We try to get
Mayor,
all
you've
the
been our
county
partner.
funds we can.
That was the answer, the key.
Well, let's focus, John, now on what county roads there are in our community. And I find when I talk to people that there's not a lot of awareness that some roads are municipally maintained and some roads are the responsibility and owned by the county, and other roads are owned by the state. So let's focus on the county roads that go through East Brunswick.
Shall we talk about one at a time?
Well, why don't we just identify all of them, and then we'll come back and talk about what's
happening. Riders Lane and Ruse Lane, that's one. We have Cranberry Road. Okay. We have Milltown Road. We have Old Bridge Turnpike. And we have Summerhill Road. I might have missed
Main Street.
Main Street right here, a little piece of Main Street in the old historic district. I think that just about covers it, Mayor. Did I miss any?
I don't think you did.
Okay. You want me just to review with you?
Yeah, why don't we talk about it?
Let's just talk about Riders Lane. This is probably the worst traffic problem as far as the county is concerned in East Brunswick. It might be one of the worst in the county as well. During peak hours, you can't move. As you know, we have an aggressive program to widen this road out to 4 lanes. We have $7 million budgeted. We're proceeding now to finalize the engineering drawings, and we hope by the end of this year we will be ready to go out to bid. We have to hedge a little bit because we have environmental considerations, especially with the brook that crosses the bridge that crosses the Lawrence Brook down here and goes into North Brunswick, because we're going to extend right into Route 1.
I think we had hoped that construction could begin before the end of this year. Is there any chance of that?
We're pushing the consultant. We have a timetable from the consultant. If he lives by the schedule, it'll happen. but I'm inclined to believe, due to reasons beyond his control, that he won't get a permit or something, and that, of course, will foul everything up. So you have to-
Mr. Reiser, you committed to me that we were going to break ground, Mayor Fox and Craybill, in the month of September of '86. I'm sure we're going to be there.
And we're getting this on tape so we can show it to John later. John, why don't you describe generally what that Riders Lane project encompasses? Now, for folks who are watching, we talk about a Riders Lane project here, which is really the construction of a new relocated Riders Lane from just in front of the municipal complex over to Summerhill Road, and that's underway. This project encompasses from Milltown Road north to Route 1.
Right. Well, we're basically, we're from Milltown Road to Tice's Lane, we're talking about improving the existing roadway, maybe adding shoulders, drainage, improving the profile, the horizontal profile, just generally improving the existing facility from here to here.
No widening.
No wide. Well, just the shoulders.
I mean,
but
still be two lanes.
Still 2 lanes, right.
Okay.
At Tice's Lane, the improvement now widens out to 4 lanes and 2 shoulders, with some median, and of course a traffic intersection here, an improved traffic light, and then of course we go all the way down with a new bridge, a relocated bridge. We're going to take the bend out down here and cut over a little bit when we get into so we go smoothly into Route 1, and that will be 4 lanes all the way. There will be some slots for making left turns. I can't recall offhand which streets we're turning, but there are some slots for left-hand turns.
What about the, well, let me start at the Route 1 end. Does this mean that the funneling of traffic coming across the bridge, the Riders Lane Bridge over Route 1 will be eliminated?
Yes.
Where it necks down from 3 or 4 lanes into a single lane? Will that be eliminated?
That'll be eliminated, Mayor, right.
Ah, excellent. And how about the improvement at Tice's Lane?
Well, Tice's is going to have turning lanes for stacking for turning. Mm-hmm. It will have it'll be, I think, 6 lanes in effect, because the shoulders now will become operative for turning movements.
A lot of effort is going into the design of the intersection of Tice's Lane, Riders Lane, and Washington Avenue, Milltown, so that traffic flow can be accelerated and no unnecessary blockage at that point.
The only thing, Mayor, that we're thinking about now, and it's not a county road, is Tice's Lane. We think that Tice's Lane is going to need improvements, because that is going to become a major road between Riders and Route 18. But I guess that's the next step.
Yeah. Well, we also are doing a comprehensive traffic survey with another consultant that was authorized last year. And as those results, as that study goes on, there'll be coordination with the county, and I'm sure that that will go into our priority setting as in terms of what we do. While we're up that way, and then I want to ask you to talk about Cranberry Road a little bit. The intersection of Milltown Road and Harts Lane is one that is a real problem these days, and we managed to get a permit to put a temporary light there, which we did, but I know that a lot of people have difficulty turning and making it through that intersection, and I also know that our staff is working with the county and it's in the program. What's the estimate for that?
Mayor, I think it's due to go out to bid sometime later this year. I think it's in our budget for this year, and hopefully it'll be ready at the end of the year to go out to bid. Invariably, in these projects, as I was saying before, the engineering really doesn't take very much time. You really have to get your permits, you have to get approvals. Even on a intersection, it has to go to the state of New Jersey for approval. There's any streams involved, there's DEP approval, so it's really the approvals that hold up a project.
A couple of years ago, Mayor, I was on the red tape task force to eliminate the bureaucracy and the red tape with the state. We learned that in the Department of Transportation, there were over 50 people, 50 entities that had to sign off on any road project, and that was without the DEP and without the federal government. It's a tremendous problem getting all the permits.
No, we have that very same problem locally. Now, let's, not with our own staff, but with getting approvals through the DOT. All right, now, John, let's talk briefly about Cranberry Road, and then let's turn to our studio panel for some questions. What's happening with Cranberry Road? What are
Okay,
the
well,
plans
let
for
me
that?
just give you a little bit of history. I think that Dave Craigo just mentioned before that in the last 4 years, we've spent over $20 million in East Brunswick. One of the joint projects that we did was the portion of Cranberry Road, and I think we have to, from Summerhill Road to Dunham's Corner Road.
Yes.
We did that jointly with you, and that was improved, I would say, to minimum standards. We've got 4 lanes out of there. We couldn't get shoulders. We had a cemetery on one side. We had apartments on the other. We have another joint agreement with you. You're very good partners. We're now talking about going from Dunham's Corner Road to a little bit beyond Bruce Lane with 4-lane shoulders and median, which would really be a quality arterial road. This is now well into the engineering phase. We should have right-of-way maps pretty well finished by summer, and hopefully this project can go out to bid at the end of this year or early part of next year. That'll take us down to Ruse Lane. I think that it's going to be probably the most attractive project that we've built in East Brunswick. It's going to have a grass median, shoulders, a sidewalk area of grass. I think it's going to be an asset to the community. That's
Will it
my
be
feeling.
similar to the Summerhill Road?
No, it's going to be a little bit. Summerhill Road does not have shoulders, and I think that this is going to be a better road than Summerhill Road, to be very honest with you.
Ah, good. Summerhill Road has worked very well for us. In fact,
That was a joint project, Mayor.
That's right, that was. Sometimes there's resistance to road improvements, and
There's always resistance.
somebody said to me the other day, well, look, you improve Summerhill Road, and there's no problem with traffic at all.
I like that.
That's a good comment.
I asked them did they remember how it was before, but, well, at this point, we've been chatting about these things. I'm sure that our studio panel has some questions. Who'd like to start off?
I'll start.
Okay. Ken.
One of the things that I've always been interested in road construction and in townships is, why does it always seem that we have to suffer for X number of years before the improvement is made? For instance, the bottleneck coming off Riders Lane down into, off of Route 1 onto Riders Lane every evening onto that small bridge across Lawrenceburg has been like that for, it's got to be 8 years, 10 years.
I might make a starting comment and then John Reiser conclude. I think over the years there was a real attempt to get every bit of federal funding and through the state in aid. And we learned that through that process, you had to go through a very formal public hearing process which protected the interests of many people. But it was a very delayed process. And one problem that we learned that sometimes in the delay, more people moved into the area and so forth, so that eventually you got where you could not move the project effectively. To counteract that, after much thinking at the county level, we have come to the conclusion that some projects, and Riders Lane improvement is an example, where the property taxpayer, through our regular county budget, will be financing all but about $400,000 that we will get from the state on that project. If we had made the commitment on funding at the county level, going back 10 years ago, we could have moved much quicker. But the process, particularly with the federal regs, makes the hearing process, and every time you had a hearing on Riders Lane, we've had 3 or 4 formal hearings because we'd get done with one and then they would want to order another. So it's a lack of funding from the property tax. And we at the county level only have one direct source of revenue, and the municipalities are the same way, and that's the property tax. We cannot, under the law, authorize a sales tax or income tax, don't want to and so forth, but it's our direct funding is property tax, so we try to get everything we can in grant money from the federal and the state governments. John, do you have a...
I think you hit it right on the head. What's happened, we've been trying since 1972 to widen Riders Lane. It started off as a federal project. And it just seemed like every other week we were having a hearing. And once there was a hearing, the feds would take the notes of the hearing and keep them for a year and then come back and say we'd have to have another hearing. And this went on and on and on and on. finally we decided that from an economic point of view, it might be better if we just, usually it was 50-50 money, 50% federal money and 50% county money. Finally, we decided maybe, and I think we're correct on this, that if we just went ahead and spent 100% in the beginning, that would be the equivalent of 50% 10 years from now. So we bit the bullet on Riders Lane, and we went ahead, we said, enough of this, because the feds just weren't moving. The state acts as the agent for the federal government in New Jersey, and they have to have hearing upon hearing upon hearing. 5 people come to a meeting and oppose the project, everything stops. 35,000 people a day use Riders Lane, and those people are never heard. But the 5 people who come and object cause the thing to be analyzed for another year. We've had, Freehold Cravel said 3 hearings. It seems to me that there were many more, but I don't know. I can't remember anymore.
We have now increased the funding, particularly in the 85 and 86 budgets at the county level, direct funding on highways and bridges and our capital program. I point out that things that took priority before were our county college, our 5 vocational schools, a new correctional facility that was needed. Many of these items took priority in funding, and I think highways and bridges got a little bit shortchanged because we thought we could get the money from the federal and state governments. We cannot, and now the Board of Chosen Freeholders is totally committed to increase the appropriation each year on the spending on highways and bridges.
That question brings to mind what I've come to call somewhat immodestly Fox's first and second laws of government. The second law is that everything takes longer than it should. And the first law is if it was easy, it would already be done. And that's true, I think, across the board. That for me, things take forever to be done. But you are surrounded by this maze of regulations and laws and procedures that have to be followed. So let's...
I might say also in New Jersey, we can only do at the municipal or county level what a specific state law authorizes that we can do. So we always have to fight with the state government a little bit too.
All right.
I just want to make one more comment about the funding situation. The second thing that's evolved from this, we're getting away from federal funding and going toward doing it ourselves more, but we're always looking for partners. And we find that if there are people who are willing to be our partners, and I'm talking about other local governments, one instance Rutgers University, if they're willing to be our partners, that kind of moves the project along and gives it a higher priority. And that seems to have worked. East Brunswick proves it. They've been our partners on a lot of roads now, without federal, without state aid, and we've built a lot of roads in East Brunswick.
I might mention that the funding that we've authorized for Cranberry Road is from the garbage money, as I call it. That is the so-called host community benefits we receive for the garbage that goes into Edgeboro landfill. Monty, you have a question?
Mayor Fox, you hit an important point that unfortunately East Brunswick is a thoroughfare for the neighboring towns for a lot of people to get from one end to the other. All this seems so well and fine, but where does the responsibility lie once we get all that traffic from one end to the turnpike, onto the turnpike? Who's responsible for increasing the flow onto the turnpike or increasing the flow back onto US 1? We can get everybody to that point, and then it just gets all backed up because there's only one lane from one road entering onto the turnpike. So where does that responsibility lie?
Well, that responsibility for the approaches to the turnpike generally is a state responsibility. For the turnpike itself, of course, is a turnpike authority. And I think that the turnpike authority would claim that they're trying to deal with that problem with the current widening proposal. But as you well know, there is a fair amount of opposition to that. Simply because it's believed to be excessive. And I know the Transportation Coordinating Committee this week adopted a resolution regarding that day. Maybe briefly you would tell us what that resolution
Well,
said.
I had gone to the hearing and with a prepared statement and pointed out that even by their own figures, they cannot prove out a need at this time for more than 1 lane each way, which would be 2 lanes. They certainly have not proven the need for 6 lanes. And we came out with a firm statement that in no way should more than 1 lane be built, and even that should be carefully evaluated, with many other concerns on bridges and so forth, but said that they should plan for the future. I'll make a comment on the Turnpike Authority. One problem is that they traditionally have not done, as an authority, what they ought to do off-site. They seem to want to start right on the stop on their on their line, and yet they created every interchange, and we have the Parkway and Turnpike that intercept within our county, and they should be spending more off-site, and we've taken a firm position on that. Our Transportation Coordinating Committee and our Planning Board this afternoon adopted the statement that was issued at the hearing, and the Board of Chosen Freeholders will consider that actions next week.
Did we answer your question on that?
To a point, you know, all the widening is fine, but how does the town put the pressure on the Turnpike Authority to look at either increasing the access from Route 18 onto that turnpike, and or opening up another access way, maybe at Ryder's Lane?
I think we put the pressure on in what is being done through governmental units, through citizen support, and in the case of East Brunswick Township, they have retained counsel to go into possibly considering litigation in the matter. We're putting tremendous pressure, and through our legislative delegation, once we get our position set in stone, hopefully then that the concerns that are raised by East Brunswick Township, Borough Milltown, which is directly involved, the County Board of Chosen Freeholders, we're going to fight hard that those concerns be looked at.
There's a specific problem, and I don't want to go into a lengthy explanation of this, but during the time that Governor Byrne was governor, he had gotten agreement from the Turnpike Commissioners that they would be responsible for the approaches to the Turnpike exits and entrances within some distance either side of them, so that, for example, the section of roadway north of exit 9 up to Route 1 would have been something the Turnpike would have spent some money on. And indeed, I think they did do some improvements at various points along the Turnpike. Governor Kane, however, wanted to have the so-called Transportation Trust Fund, and he, I believe, had legislation or encouraged legislation which changed the Turnpike Charter and now requires them to put something on the order of $12 million a year, if I remember the number correctly, into the state transportation improvement fund or trust fund, whatever it is. And the Turnpike's position today is that we simply don't have the money to make the improvements approaching and leaving our interchanges. And so now maybe the next governor will have a different idea, but that's a real problem in having them spend that money, because they claim that all of their surplus revenue has been diverted into the Transportation Trust Fund.
And Mayor, one problem, rightfully or wrongfully, the Turnpike Commissioners have total power, and the only veto power of any action they take within 10 days is the governor of the state. There is no other review process. And beyond that, the only review process would be to go into litigation into the courts.
Well, realizing that the two government agencies will be involved, what is any plans being done to try to improve the 1 and 18 interchange?
Yes, in fact, that improvement is underway right now. If you notice, there is construction on the west side of Route 18, which is the side towards North Brunswick, and that is the beginning of a substantial improvement there. What the improvement is that there will be a new bridge constructed, and it will be a parallel bridge to the one that's there now, and then the one that's there now will be refurbished. The curve is being straightened out. If you're coming from New Brunswick south on Route 18 and you look now from the other side of Route, or when you come up on the Route 1 bridge, you see straight across to Route 18, the road is going to go right straight down there, which will take out that very constricting curve at the bottom. And eventually there will be 6 travel lanes, 3 travel lanes in each direction over 2 bridges, so that there's a tremendous improvement being done there, and that should be completed sometime, I think, the end of next year, 1987.
Thank you.
Monty?
Just going back to John on the widening project, when you go out for request for quote, why doesn't the township or the county ask the contractor to work around the clock, put penalties in the request for quote saying that if you don't meet a deadline, that it's going to cost you bucks. Why is the town always sitting back saying, when is this thing finally going to get finished?
Well, you could do that, but you would pay a terrible, terrible penalty to make a contractor work around the clock because you'd get involved with double and triple time. There are occasions where we do that on bridges and what have you, where we feel it's absolutely essential that a project proceed quickly. Maybe if it's a matter of a week or so, where we have a deck to replace. We had a deck to replace on 516. That takes 35,000 cars a day. We wanted the deck replaced in a week, and we told him he had to work around the clock. We put that in the contract. Of course, you pay a penalty. It's a tremendous penalty to do that. I don't know whether it makes sense because some of these projects, wait for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden you say to the contractor, hey, you've got to do it in 6 months, and I wonder.
I think 287 is an illustration, first time that the state in our county, and I guess in central Jersey, did it, where they did put a benefit if they finished ahead of time. I think it was $7,000 a day or some amount like that, and a penalty each day beyond a certain point on the 287 improvements, which was the right way to move, and we fought hard for that. I think the problem in our county, or most times on a county road, is not the actual construction time. Usually that accelerates pretty fast. Many of the contractors want to move fast because they get in, they make their money and get out. Our problem is the bureaucracy and everything, getting the permits and everything else to get the project bid.
And it's not all, you never know whose project it is. The project at Riders Lane and Milltown Road last in 1984, which everybody thought took forever, which it did, but it was a state project. And the problem was with the state engineer who was on site. It wasn't a county, it wasn't a town project. It's the last time I'll let the state do another project in a critical area like that, as far as I'm concerned. Ken?
I'd like to move off of car transportation, if I may. With the widening of Riders Lane and the fact that a lot of people do work in New Brunswick, are there any plans for expanding mass transportation, for instance, with the success of Metro Park? Is there any plan to do something with the train station in New Brunswick, or is there any plan to run bus lines? I work in Cranberry. I could easily take a bus from where I live to Cranberry if it went all the way out 535.
Metro Park, we're strong advocates, and New Jersey Transit is looking at it now for a parking deck. We need 1,500 more car spaces there, and the only way we can get them is a deck. At the exit 10 on the Turnpike, a park and ride for buses, and maybe a jitney service going to Metro Park so that they could park there, get into rail, and also take buses to Newark and New York. The South Brunswick rail station is now going to be a reality in South Brunswick Township. That will be a park and ride. The plans were unveiled just a couple of weeks ago by the state. There is a need for another bus park and ride. We've talked about one over on Route 1 in possibly South Brunswick, which would be just on the border of East Brunswick, talked about on the Route 1 corridor. I might just make another comment. Piscataway Township creates 35,000 jobs, and 5,000 are Piscataway residents. 30,000 come into Piscataway, many in their own car, one person in a car, and go out. We've had a real plan to try to encourage van pooling, car pooling, staggered work hours, and so forth. But we have people from Toms River in Ocean County commute to Piscataway for a job and then go back. They come in on Route 18 or the Route 18 corridor, which is East Brunswick. They come in on Riders Lane. Some come up 9 and then down 1. But that is a tremendous problem that we have people from Morris County coming down to Piscataway into the hub of Middlesex County, people coming from Ocean County up, and then we have a commuting public to New York. Now we have, in the past 2 years, a commuting public from Manhattan, live in Manhattan, who commute to the high-tech industries in South Brunswick Township on the Route 1 corridor, so now we have that mesh also. Just
an interesting statistic about East Brunswick, if you look at least based on the 1980 census figures, of our total employed workforce, 28% work in East Brunswick itself, And if you include those, 68% of our workforce works in Middlesex County. So that people in the community are also trying to go to those other places to work, and probably the folks in Piscataway are saying, how come all these people are on our roads and what have you, and it is a problem that extends beyond our borders.
Might say this, Mayor, also, here East Brunswick's been a leader. You've taken a lead on transportation, on park and rides for your people in East Brunswick Township. New Brunswick now, this county seat, city government's going to be taking over the Jersey Avenue park and ride, so there is some movement. Edison, the Edison municipal government has taken over the Edison park and ride, and so there is involvement now by our municipalities. There is plan, but the details are being worked out for a major transportation center in Old Bridge, which is a large municipality, down on probably Route 9. Because there's a real need down there, and that will take some of the blunt of traffic coming up 18.
Absolutely. Now, on mass transit, Dave, I know we talked briefly because someone had raised a question with me. There is an electrified railway that runs, railroad track that runs along Bordentown Avenue right in the southern part of East Brunswick, and I guess goes on through Spotswood. And someone has said, well, why can't we have passenger service to New York from that location?
We learned a year ago, plus, that they were going to take down the electrification of that line and sell it off for scrap. We reacted at the county level, and the end result was we blocked it. They did not take it down. They've cut the current on some of the lines, but it's staying there because there is a plan to try to do something on passenger service on there. It's far from being worked out, but in my humble opinion, it's got to be evaluated and looked at very hard. And that would take people down to South Amboy and then get on the Jersey coastline right into New York.
And how far away do you think some decision on that might be?
I think you're 3 to 4 years away because it's not a top priority item with New Jersey Transit Corporation.
Okay, who else?
I have
Yeah,
some
Ken.
addition. Well, thinking about the way things are growing in the county and all the, seems like light industry, whatever you would call it, that's going out on Cranberry Road, what kind of a communication is set up between these developers and the county to make sure that things aren't done in such a way that a real problem is created before the roads can catch up?
John, maybe you
Well,
could address that.
You know that a developer has to have an approval from the local planning board, and he also has to have an approval from the county planning board. Our county planning staff really does, I think, a fairly thorough job on reviewing just about every subdivision and site plan that comes before us. We attempt to reserve as much right-of-way as we can. We attempt, in many instances, to get the developer to build as much of the widened roadway as possible. We attempt to get as many improvements as we feel we justifiably can obtain from the developer. Most in keeping with some sort of a plan that the planning board has worked out for a roadway. Not to say that when we come by later with some kind of major project, we might not change it somewhat, but I think that basically we try to get the right-of-way, preserve the right-of-way, so that sometime in the future we can construct what we want to construct.
I think it's got to be emphasized that under the Constitution, if somebody, and case law, if somebody owns land, they have the right to do something with it. Government has the right to zone it, to regulate it, to say what you can do with it, but government cannot tell that person that they cannot do anything with that land. And there are some say stop the entire Route 1 corridor. It's too late for that, and I think it's my style to be forthright, it's straightforward. I think we've got to admit that from New York to Philadelphia, the Route 1 corridor is going to be developed in some fashion. We came out last year and created the new County Agricultural Development Board as a method of trying to encourage and some of the farmland, particularly in the southern portion of the county, to stay as farmland. But with that exception, of trying to maintain, keep some of the farmland in the southern portion. There really is none on the other side of Raritan at this point. With that exception, you're really going to have either houses or townhouses or apartments or industry or factories or warehousing or commercial, those entities. We have over 5,000 acres of parkland in Middlesex County. That's a credit to the Board of Chosen Freeholders, predecessors of mine. Each municipality has substantial parkland. We've earmarked now in East Brunswick Township, Arlen Brook Park, which will stay in the rough. So that's a credit where we're keeping land in the open space. But at this point, you have to modify what someone is building, try to do it in the right way, but you're not going to be able to stop it, in my humble opinion.
Mayor, I just want to comment. Most mayors, one of the first questions that they throw at us, and you haven't thrown it at us yet, and I think I ought to throw it at myself and then answer it, is the fact that, you know, they say, hey, you know, we're giving the county $2 million a year or $3 million a year, and we're only getting $1 million back in bridges and roads, and we ought to get more. But I think that Freeholder Craybill touched on the fact that we haven't stressed too much here because we're talking about roads and bridges, but the fact of the matter is that we probably have one of the finest vocational school systems in the United States. That's supported by your tax dollar. We have one of the finest park systems in New Jersey. Again, that's supported by your tax dollar. We have a community college, a county college. Again, the best in the state of New Jersey.
And the largest in the state.
The best in the state of New Jersey and the largest. And then that, again, is supported by the taxpayer. So there are a lot of, and I hate to bring it up, but we have a jail that we had to construct because we were told we had to do
and that's unfortunate that there are over 600 people in the adult correctional facility in Middlesex County, and by and large, they are Middlesex County residents. That is an unfortunate part of our society.
It is unfortunate.
We just spent $22 million on a jail. It's a lot of dollars for a jail. We were almost mandated to do it.
We have a county hospital, Roosevelt Hospital, that's a nursing home to a large extent. 550 beds, has more beds than any other medical facility in our county, and that is subsidized by the county property taxpayer.
All right, let's come
So
back.
you get your dollar.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't ask the question because I know about the jail and my
Okay,
kids
you have a
went to
vocational
the
school. You see the
community
vocational
college, and we
school,
have
yeah,
a vocational
in the
high
parks
school
there.
here, and the
All right.
Tamarack Golf Course, and
Right.
Jamesburg Park, and so on. Monty, you had a question about transportation, I think.
Yeah, transportation, because I am a commuter to New York every morning, and just two maybe quick fix type questions. Going down Riders Lane, County Road, I'm sure hundreds of car drivers ask this question every morning. Who is responsible for the problem with the tracks on Riders Lane as you approach the turnpike, where everybody happens to come to a stop so they don't do damage to their car going across those tracks? Why can't we get that fixed? And who is looking at the heavy merge points, one in specific being Sullivan Way, feeding out many, many cars onto Riders Lane, causing a backup sometimes as far back to Dunham's Corner?
With the improvement, all these points that you mentioned will be addressed. I think that one of the problems we have is when we realize that we're going to go in with a major improvement, there's a tendency to sit back and wait for the major improvement to happen versus putting dollars in to fix the rail crossing and what have you. So what happens is our road department goes in there and keeps on patching, and obviously it's not the best, but it keeps things going until we can get in here with the entire widening project and do it right, which will be a rubberized crossing, and it'll be done correctly. Hopefully it'll be done this year.
September?
Crossing those railroad tracks is going to be like floating on air. John assures me of that. And how about the heavy merge points?
Sullivan Way is going to be addressed, you know, because you're going to have a wider road, you're going to have a shoulder there, so people will be able to make that turn. There'll be a light there, so people will be able to make that turn, accelerate, and it'll be a safe intersection.
But in your opinion, it's best to wait for the whole project to take effect?
You could spend a lot of money right now. We could spend easily $200,000 on Sullivan Way and Riders Lane and improve it, and then next year just
I think
blow it
on
away.
Sullivan Way, that should wait. On the point that you raise on the Riders Lane with the railroad track, I'm going to take a look at that because
Who's
certainly
responsible for those
Well, the
tracks?
County Road Highways and Bridges, that department maintains it, and if it's just a modest type of repair that can improve it temporarily, certainly we ought to do it. If it's going to be a major cutting out in a major expenditure, then it should wait, hopefully a little bit. But we'll take a look at it, and
Appreciate
perhaps
it.
there can be some temporary improvement.
Yeah, it does slow down traffic, and I always thought it was Conrail's responsibility.
It is Conrail's responsibility.
But if you wait for
when we
Conrail,
go-
it'll never get done.
But on a new project, we're not going to wait for Conrail. We're going to go in and do it.
Okay, so but we do also try to keep it up.
And
to a
we'll go in
level
and
that-
patch too, because you can't wait for Conrail to react.
Road maintenance. What's the shape of our bridges in this town, or in this county, versus some of the things that have been said with, of course, when that bridge collapsed in Connecticut? How are we in?
Let me just make a comment on our county roads, and we've got 341 miles of county roads. They are well-maintained. So our problem is not the roads.
No,
Now
that
get
was
to the
not my
bridges.
angle with the question. I was just how that gets orchestrated and how we're doing with it.
For the last 15 years, we have, I'm going to talk about bridges now, we have aggressively attacked the bridge problem that we had in Middlesex County. I think that we have right now the safest and best hydraulic bridges in the state of New Jersey, because we build 3, 4, 5 of them every year, and we repair maybe another 5. I don't think there's any county in New Jersey who does that. As I told you before, though, I'm concerned about the railroad bridges. I'm concerned not only in Middlesex County, I'm concerned throughout the state. The state has yet to come to grips with this problem. Somebody has got to assign responsibility for these railroad bridges. I don't think they can assign it to local government. I don't think there's enough money in local government to repair and maintain the railroad bridges. I'm talking about county or municipal government. I think there's got to be a higher source of funding to take care of these problems.
The county has traditionally had the responsibility of bridges, even if it's not on a county road, if it goes over a culvert or between a municipality. And so we get far beyond, I guess there's no legal document on those bridges, but we've maintained them.
Historically, we've taken care of all hydraulic bridges in the county. I mean, we're talking about bridges on municipal roads, on county roads, but not on state highways. Hydraulic bridge is one where a roadway goes over and water goes underneath. We've had several hundred of them in Middlesex County over the length of 20 feet. We are now going into a program looking at all the structures less than 20 feet, which we feel it'll be another 100, 150 structures.
The problem with the bridges are costly. The new bridge on Riva Avenue between Milltown and East Brunswick, completely redone, with $600 and some thousand over a small culvert. You can go up to some of these other bridges where they're costing $2 and $3 million before you're through on larger bridges.
Okay, we're about at the end of our time. We have time for one more question, which I'm going to answer. You haven't heard it asked yet. But before we started the program, Max had asked me about the availability of parking for occasional travelers to New York City. And a few months ago, we had a real problem here because our commuter lots were full with daily commuters. And people who wanted to go in 10 o'clock or go in shopping occasionally had a real problem.
I see a show in New York or something.
Right. I'm happy to tell you that at the Transportation Center, which is International Market Site, we have reserved about 60 spaces for daily usage for people who want to go in like that. And because of some recent negotiations there, in addition to that, as of today, there are about 300 empty parking spaces there every day that are available to you. But we will always keep some 60 or so spaces available for people who want to go in on an occasional basis.
Thank you.
So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. John and Dave and Max and Monty and Ken, it's been a pleasure having you here. I particularly appreciate Freeholder Craybill and the county engineer being with us tonight. I think from my perspective, it's been a very informative program. And just remember, John, that we have it on tape about when the northern part of Riders Lane is going to begin to be reconstructed.
Mayor, thanks for letting us participate. We enjoyed it.